I mentioned you all over the place.
Even better, no.
Okay, and then if we finish early, I brought your file.
Okay.
Go through and ask you questions.
Okay.
See like,
Yeah.
close.
So, okay.
And then I have a
I'm
one
already
pretty
pretty
soon,
good
so
at
I have to leave here by the.
Karen
12.
gave me this a long time ago, but I just hadn't had a chance to start it.
Like,
Okay.
It's worth reading because it's, it'll
Okay,
change your
perfect.
mind on.
So I basically hooked it back to that.
Because Gary Keller.
Thank you.
Because life is not fun that way, at least.
I know.
But you know what, I'm covered.
Oh my God, I'm
Well, I will be covered on Friday.
Do you know how busy I am Friday?
Thank you.
Real signings Friday. I was talking to someone yesterday, and he's like, well, you said that, because I'm going to Europe on next week in 2 weeks.
Well, I've enjoyed
You said that,
the,
if I got you all the
you know,
information.
I've logged in the past
do it
2
on
mornings, so
Friday.
I'm still finishing getting ready to the morning call.
I said, you can
And
only
I'm
come at 12,
enjoying
like, that's the only time that you
listening
come.
to those.
Okay,
I'm not
I'll be
ready
there.
to participate
He's like-
yet.
he's like, all right, listen, if it's too much, like,
The
I
good news
said,
is
no,
that
I
that's
told you I
training.
would, and I will.
Okay,
I
good.
said, thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome, thank you.
Which one
Yeah.
you pick, so.
So you can either just use the arrow. You
Okay,
sit here, well,
I can sit way over here, so if somebody else wants to sit in front.
And do you, since it's on Zoom, do you want me to, like, if I'm here, is the camera
well,
work
yeah,
or at least?
the camera's
At the
here, so
camera,
you
right,
can
and just
either,
stand in front of the camera, so like this, the people are on Zoom, so they'll be watching from there.
Okay, so do you want me to sit here to use this?
Sure, yes, I can see you, yeah.
Call me when
Cool, I will, thank you.
Hello.
Hi, I'm
How
Sharda.
I'm Lisa Crosby, I literally just started Monday, so.
Really, welcome.
Yes, thank
Usually
you.
this is a full room, or sometimes it's not, depending on the week, I know how busy it is.
Right.
It's May, so I think agents are out there working right now, so that's
Right.
great, yeah. But these are all recorded,
Here's-
so people
If
can
you have
always.
any
access
questions
them.
out there,
Thank you, thank you.
then you
Yeah.
have.
Yes,
I'll
I
leave you a
have
few.
this, yeah. So,
I think you're to know it all at this point. You all wait for Johns Creek this morning? Oh my goodness.
That's it. The traffic was not bad. Which is good, the traffic is not bad.
Right, my husband's in a train, his office is in Buckhead, and he's decided that, you know, Mondays and Fridays are pretty good for driving in, but Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, that's when everyone else goes to the office, so he tries to get on the
We're
road.
kind of a
earlier.
lot of secrets.
He does like patents and trademarks and things, but he does the litigation side of it. And actually, I worked at a law firm downtown forever, and we did insurance defense.
When I first started practicing law in 1990, I did personal injury
Okay.
down by Hell Mill Road.
Mhm.
And then we moved to Alpharetta and built a
Yeah.
house, and someone said, oh, you're an attorney, will you do my will? And that's how I found it.
oh.
So in 1993, I started doing wills and trusts, and I didn't know how to do it, and so I joined up with someone who taught me everything I know.
That's
And-
awesome.
Yeah, so you
You're
did
right.
patenting before too, as well?
No, I did
or-
personal injury law,
personal
like,
injury, okay.
car accidents. I hated it.
Accidents.
Hated it.
Were you on the
There
plaintiff
was
side?
always, yeah, it was always a fight, and
Always.
that's not an industry you want to see repeat clients,
Right.
right? In
Right.
our industry, we do, but
I
not
worked
in
on the
person.
plaintiff side years
Right.
ago. Have you ever heard of Doug Powell and Jackie Hinton? I mean,
No, but there were certain insurance companies that we liked, and certain we didn't, we're like, oh,
Right.
if they came in with like State Farm, we were like, oh.
yes, agreed.
Right?
Yeah, we would get a
And
lot
there
of,
was Safeway we hated,
Yeah.
and other ones you're like, oh, yay.
that was,
And it was no fault in 1990, I don't know if you remember that, but
Is
that was,
Safeway still around with that insurance company?
this was
No.
so long ago.
so long
So
ago.
long
Yeah.
ago.
Cause yeah, we
I'm
would get a lot,
dating myself
we would
now.
get a lot of referrals from Motley, so Gilbert and Motley is what they were back then.
Oh my God, their commercials were all over the place. on
Yeah,
television.
so it's
Yeah.
like if they would work it up until it was about to go to litigation, they didn't wanna file suit, so then we would get it. And this was way before computers and you have to, I mean, the original and having these service copies and, I mean,
Wow.
there's no e-filing, there was no,
I don't know how that was done back then, right? It was just so hard. It was, I mean, but you know what? Life was slower. We didn't have all this, like, because we have all of this technology, life is also crazier. So we don't have the time
right.
to even do that kind of work with
Yeah.
Xeroxing and
Mhm.
going in person.
Yeah.
In some ways it was better.
Right, exactly. And you know, all the e-filing that we do for documents and stuff,
Yeah.
which part of it's good. My law firm, we were the victim of a cyber hack in January.
You're saying my law firm, so you were a
Well, I
lawyer too?
was an assistant, legal assistant.
Oh, okay.
So I kind of had a hybrid position between being a
Yeah.
secretary and paralegal. I just didn't have to know hours, which was nice. But our entire firm, we were hacked. And like, we've got offices as far west as
That's crazy.
Montana and then New York and Florida and whatever. And we thought we were gonna get our documents back. And
That's
So-
what happened.
we had to refile all, we've been
Hi, welcome, come on in.
working on rebuilding all of our electronic files and stuff. I'm like, oh gosh. So I worked really hard the past, month or so trying to rebuild as much as I could until I left and came here. So I'm like, okay, I've done all I can. Good luck with the rest.
Isn't it nice to be in business when you can choose your hours and when you wanna work and how much or how little?
It's taking me a minute to get used to this because it's like, I was in the office all the time and then even after my kids would go to bed or be done with sports, I'd still log on and work
Right.
more. And now, like, I forgot my lunch and so I'm gonna run home after this and eat my lunch and just, but I can do whatever I want because like, they're in the process of upgrading their computer software, whatever. So they can't get me on anything until next week. So I'm kind of like,
Well, I hope today helps you.
yeah, I'm sure it will. So now at this point, I'm just trying to soak in information and
You know what you could be doing right now? I would just give you a quick coaching moment here, is while they're getting all of that stuff together, make calls. I just went to get like a shift workshop and seminar for like the ALC. Call people right now, like just relationships, they'd be like, hey, and in conversation, checking in on them, you can let them know you're in real estate.
trust
So,
me, I've
You've
already
been
done.
doing, so you're working already. then?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, so I'm getting headshots tomorrow, so I get business
Yeah.
cards after that and yes, so trust me, I've updated all my contacts on my phone because I'm like, oh, that person passed away. I better
Yeah.
take them out.
That's the weirdest thing, right?
I know, right?
I'm
That
like,
is really
oh,
weird.
like,
Yeah.
I guess it's like-
Well, if your person
Jill, I'm
passed
so
away,
glad
maybe
you're
they have.
here.
Yeah,
Good to
people
see
like
you.
that.
I've been thinking about you. I'm like, I need to follow up with that conversation last time. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Do you record these?
Yeah, so it's getting recorded and so we'll get started. I think people on Zoom are on as well, so, and I want to respect your times.
Oh,
3
that's
minutes
fine.
in. So I just wanted to introduce you guys to Elise Pardon. She is my attorney personally. And she came in here into the office about, has it been already like, it's been a while. And Carrie brought her in actually, and this room was full. So I'm surprised right now it's not full. So I'm hoping all of you guys are on Zoom, but okay, anyway, it'll be get recorded, so people will find value in it once they watch the video and the Zoom recording. So Elise has been doing estate planning for more than 25 years. She's a financial educator for 10 years, and so that's a lot of experience. And she focuses on educating her clients on 7 money milestones. And she did that class actually last time she was here. It was more focused on finances last time, and today it's going to be more a little bit of that, but more focused on trust and wills. And so she works with individuals, she works with groups. So if you have any contacts from like your prior law firm that anybody that wants to set up a will, I highly recommend Elise. Her father had suddenly passed away at the age of 14, and this is what her inspiration was.
47.
Yeah, he was at the age of 47, right?
I was 17.
That's so young. Oh my God. So, and my father actually passed away when he was 51 as well. So Elise and I had connected on that last time. So, because I was like, wow, I get that. Like you need protection in place. My father passed away without any life insurance. And we were 3 girls. My mom didn't work. My mom didn't know anything about her finances, the finances that my dad did or didn't do. She was just a caregiver, so she never thought about, well, what if life happens? Because life, unfortunately, goosebumps happens, So, and we were like firsthand experiences as young adults of that. So I started to understand that I needed to get my finances and I needed to get my trust, wills, everything in place. As simple as another story of a client just last week, and a friend of mine told me, oh, my house is on for sale or is going to be next door. I'm like, great. What's the situation? Probate. You've seen that, right? Probate, like houses for sale, and his wife just passed away. They didn't have anything together, so it went into the government's hands and had to go through probate. and all that mess. So they're already grieving, but now they are also, you know, they don't have anything in order, so they have to wait for somebody else to decide. So that's what Elise has helped me put together to avoid that for like our current and our future, hopefully. It's not the funnest thing to do. The questions that, you know, you have to answer, and then you're answering them as if you're dead. Oh, okay, so if I died, and then if your husband died, and then your husband, and then both of you both died, I'm like, oh my God. It's hard. It's like, okay, all right, let's go through this. And it's all seems imaginary, but then it feels real as you're answering the questions, to the point where my husband was like, do you really want to do this? I was like, yeah, we have to do this. I'm like,
No, I really don't want.
yeah, I don't. So, but just to tell you a little bit more about Elise, she's fully licensed in life insurance. She's estate, retirement, and long-term care planning. And she combines the financial understanding that she has with her estate planning law practice. So what I mean by that is, like, afterwards, if you guys want to get together with Elise, which is what I did last time, she does like a one-on-one and makes it easy to do it even on Zoom. She did some financial planning for us as well, which was like, which pushed us to get our finances together, you know, like answer questions like, okay, it just, to get all of our, like, it made me get organized. So are you guys organized with all of that? You probably are. Yeah. So it got me to get organized, and you know, since you're really starting off also, this is a good time to also get just organized with your finances as well. And she partners up with Keller Williams agents like myself, and she's helped me and many others to clients on both buying and selling sides. And so she's going to go ahead and present for us. I'll let her take it away from here.
Thank
Does
you,
that sound
Maureen.
good, Elise?
That sounds awesome, thank you.
Okay.
Is it okay if I sit down and
Yeah,
go through the slides?
yeah, absolutely.
Well, thank you all so much, and sorry, those of us in the room are women, and in Zoom land might be more than women, might be some men too, but as women, we are going to outlive the men. And so it always feels like we have to take care of ourselves, our families, and sometimes it's overwhelming, and it's just easier to shut down and say, you know what, I just don't really want to think about this, right? But shift happens, right? And thank you so much for inviting me in to talk about all kinds of shift. But one of the shifts that happened to me, and I know happened to you as well, is that, yeah, my father went out running and had a heart attack and died and never came home. And I was 17 and my sister was 15 and my brother was 13. My mother was 39 years old and a widow. She had nothing. She knew how to pay bills, but she wasn't working because back then, when you're a school teacher and you got pregnant, you were asked to leave. So she was not working. She was raising her family, and my father now is out of the picture. No life insurance, no will, no financial plan. So if it really weren't for my grandmother, who kind of stepped in to become the mother-father figure, we probably would have been homeless, which is really scary. And so I just wanted to go through things as you as agents, what can you do to create the relationships to make you the best you that you can be? And my whole basis is educating you so you can educate going forward. There's nothing salesy. It's just about, you know, what do you want to create? And so hopefully this will work. So let's talk about inflation. So there's things that we can and can't control. Inflation is like a runaway train right now. And you could see on the chart, like, what is going on? All of a sudden COVID happened and things just went haywire. Talk about no control of things. So look at what the percentages are of things that have increased. So eggs, I remember going to the store a couple months ago and a carton of eggs were $10. And my daughter, I sent her to go to the store to pick up something on her way home, and she says, I said, just pick up eggs. She goes, eggs, $10. And I said, yeah. And she didn't realize like how much things really cost. And so she went to crack an egg the next morning and there was like a little shell and she goes, ooh, I should probably just pick the shell out and not throw it away and reuse it. I said, yes, right? And now like eggs are coming down a little bit, but all these things are going up in prices, but hourly wages are not keeping up with inflation. So that's putting people in a real bind, right? People are ending up more putting things on credit card, not going out as much. And then not going out as much is not helping with inflation because people aren't putting money back into the economy. So all these things are affecting not only life, but your business, right? Look at all the things that are going to affect affordability of housing and things that you cannot control. Prices of homes, debt to income ratio of your clients, the real estate market, the economic outlook, interest rates, which, as you know, are going higher. Time of the year, we love the springtime as agents because it's the selling season, but we have all these other things that we can't control, people's lifestyle and, you know, how long are they going to stay in the house that they're buying or selling. And so you can control certain things, but there are things that you can't control. And so I want to help you understand what can you control so that you can have the clients and the repeat clients that you want. And so I don't know if anybody who has been in the business a while has bought and sold with a same client over and over again. Has anybody had that? Right. And more than 2 times, more than 3 times, right? And so that's a good feeling. And what do you attribute that to?
Good customer service.
Right.
Yeah.
It's all a relationship, right? So you can control the relationship. And I remember when I first moved to Georgia, my realtor became my go-to for everything, anything. You know, who do you go to for the dentist? Who do you go to for this? Who do you go to for that? And then, you know, we moved here, we got married, then we started having children. Oh, we need a bigger house. Who are we going to call? We're going to call you again, right? Now my kids are getting older. They're moving out. Who am I going to call? I'm going to call you again because I have a relationship with you and I trust you, right? And so you want to become that trusted advisor with that person. So you want to create the service, you want to create the loyalty and the satisfaction, and you want to treat people as people. And I know you and I just had this conversation, right? You said, oh my God, I went to a client's home to talk to them and it turned into what, 2-hour visit. But you didn't say, sorry, it's dinner time, I gotta go, right?
Right.
This is your relationship. These are real people. And so I am sure that those people truly appreciated your heart, right? And people get it, right? And I love the Maya Angelou. What people will remember, they might not remember what you said, but they'll remember how you made them feel.
Right.
And that's what this business is. People are buying a home. They are putting everything they have on your hands to trust you, that you're going to find the right neighborhood, you're going to find the right house, you're going to find them the best price, right? So they want you to be their trusted advisor. And typically you are dealing with people that are in transition. You know, is it a family change? Are people getting married, having children? Are people getting divorced? Are people passing away, right? Are you moving in and out of state? And Georgia is like the fastest in and out. I mean, I have a neighbor of mine. I met her, we start playing tennis, and she's, oh, husband's being transferred to Chicago. You know, what is she supposed to say? No, thanks, I really like it here. No, now she's got to sell and then she's got to buy.
Right, we were
Right.
just discussing this at James Shaw's shift workshop too, that these are, we had like a mind, we did a mastermind within like our 6 people groups, mini groups, and discussing, well, where are we getting our listings from? And most of these were the same reasons why, you know, the reasons for listing these days, which is family change, marriage, children, divorce, death, relocation. Also, a lot of people are moving into their second homes. The baby boomers, which is the largest population buying right now, and in real estate. So they're selling because now that lake house they bought years ago as an investment property, they're ready to move into it now, which is a story we can tell our clients as well, that, hey, you know, you have to plan ahead, shit
Right.
happens. So are you also planning ahead for, you know, your future? Because this is what they have done. This is my experience, my story. This is how they have lived, and they get to now choose. And they did it because now they get to choose how they want to live the rest of their second.
Right, and as you know, stories sell, right?
Yeah.
I did this for someone, oh, I had helped a client in this situation, and clients can relate to that, and like, oh, so you understand what I'm going through, you get it,
Yeah.
right? Or maybe a financial change, maybe this inflation, losing jobs, now they need to sell their home. Maybe they need to sell their home and buy a smaller home. Who are they gonna call? Their trusted advisor. And so you're you are helping someone with their biggest financial decision of their life. They need to understand that they need to weigh their options, market conditions, and they need to trust you. So what you can do and what I do with my clients, because we are all trusted advisors in some way or another, is education, right? You're helping them buy or sell their biggest asset. Don't you want them to feel good about it? I mean, the worst thing is you buy something you can't afford and you're cash poor. You put them in a home, they get their dream home, but now they can't afford it. And they go into credit card debt. And it just goes on and on and on. And so I don't know if some of you have come, I did another class purely on the 7 Money Milestones. It's about a book called How Money Works, Don't Be a Sucker. And it goes through this. And if you weren't here at that last class, I'm happy to give you a copy. I have a few extra copies at the end of this. But education, educate your clients and yourself, right? How does money work? Proper protection, that this is life insurance. What if you put this client in this home and they have no life insurance? They get their dream home, but then one spouse dies. Well, you lost the spouse, you lost the income, you have a mortgage, probably. Who's gonna pay it and how? So wouldn't that be handy, right? And I know there's mortgage insurance that you can help people with. But what happens if you no longer have that mortgage? What happens if someone gets sick along the way and then they move? Well, now they don't have the insurance. And so life insurance, I think, is far superior than mortgage insurance. Emergency fund, making sure that you talk to your clients about, listen, I want you to have your dream house, but I want you to have your dream life, right? And that's to have the emergency fund in place so that they don't end up in credit card debt, because we talked about inflation, right? You can't control that. But you can control these things. So making sure that they at least understand it. You don't need to, harp on them, but at least have a conversation. Debt management, we don't want clients to get into credit card debt. We want them to, manage the cash flow. That is minimizing expenses and increasing your income, building wealth, and then protecting wealth. This is what we're going to concentrate on today, is estate planning, right? You want to not only do all these other things, but you want to protect and pass. So are you protecting your family? So 59% of Americans have life insurance, but half of them are underinsured. And 63% of people are more afraid of outliving their money than dying. So here's a few facts. 70% of Americans do not have a will. 50% of Americans with children don't have a will.
Wow.
41% of baby boomers, ages 55, 64, don't have one. And the reason that people say, well, I don't have one, is you don't want to think about it, right? Who wants to think about this? I'll think about it later. I don't need one, too expensive. And so if you have an event that happens in your life or someone that you know, that kind of takes procrastination off the table, because now there's urgency, right? Did you know that marriage or divorce revokes prior will? So if you are dealing with clients and they are going through a nasty, bitter divorce and they have a will, and one spouse dies during that divorce, that will be honored and the property might all go to the nasty ex. You can do a will in contemplation of the divorce or contemplation of the marriage. And that way, when that event happens, you're protected. So think about these things as you're dealing with clients, right? Maybe someone is getting a divorce. Maybe they just got married. They need to think about having a will in place and having other documents in place.
If you move to a different state, I've heard that you have to change it again. Is that true? Is it different from state to state? Like,
So
if you move?
obviously the best situation is having something in place regardless of what state. The best situation would be to have the estate planning documents in the state that you live and reside.
Back up a second. So if you have a will and you get divorced, that will is no longer valid.
That's correct.
So what if it has like, who gets your children, and like, then what happens?
Then it's up to
The state?
probate courts. And then there are intestate laws, which means if you die without a will, your spouse and your children might be sharing property.
That just doesn't make sense though, because you know, a divorce means you're not on the same page now, right? Like sort of like the divorce will, so if you already had a will, that was when you guys were of the same mind, meeting of the minds. But then now that you've had the divorce or going through the divorce, it would be challenging, I would gather, to write another will with someone you're separating or from, right? Do you get what I'm saying? Is anyone following what I'm saying? So,
Can you imagine
well,
if it's a second marriage with blended families now? Can you imagine the mess that could be going through?
If you're just going through the divorce, the will would not be. Because
If
it would
you-
still be valid.
it's still
It'd be
valid.
valid, it's still be valid.
And some divorces take a really long time because it becomes a fight. And it could be a fight over something really stupid like a 401k. But you end up spending so much money in litigation fees that it almost defeats the purpose.
Sort of like when you're negotiating on a house and they get caught up over $150
Right. I don't wanna leave the light, right, or you're selling house. I want, you know, they don't get that light. They don't get my refrigerator, right?
right, but I'm just imagining like, you know, someone's going through a divorce and you've already decided that, okay, you know, we're like, when we were writing our will, we have to decide, okay, which one of our siblings would be in charge or how much of the inheritance would, which sibling would get what? If God forbid, all four of us, God forbid, died together, like I'm a family of four. So it was like, okay, so let's just figure out how much your siblings would get of our wealth left over and your siblings. And I can imagine if I was going through a divorce, I think those numbers would change because he would be like,
Yeah.
oh yeah, no, okay, we're changing that, my siblings are gonna get more. And, you know, so in some ways, I don't like how that would work, that the will would change, you know, if you're going through a divorce. That would create another reason to fight,
Right.
yeah.
Can you see how many touching points you have to really create the relationship with
Right.
clients? Even just starting out or in a downtime, checking in with clients, just keeping them front on your mind. So what passes through a will, if you have a will? Things that pass through a will are things that you own in your name, things that you own joint property, like if you help somebody buy their house and they buy it joint with right of survivorship, means if one of the spouses died, the house automatically becomes the other person's property without anything. It's automatic by operation of law. But what happens now if that second spouse passes away? That home is now owned by one person and will go through a will. What if that person owns property in different states? That means that you have to go through probate in all different states, because probate is the process by which property transfers from a deceased person's name into where it's supposed to go. So you can solve that problem. There's a solution to a problem. And that's what I try to help clients on the 720 milestone understand, is what are your concerns and what are your solutions? Things that also do not pass through a will are life insurance, because it's beneficiary, right? What happens if you help a family and they have life insurance, husband and wife, and the 3-year-old daughter is the backup beneficiary on that life insurance policy? Do you think that that 3-year-old is going to be granted $500,000 of tax-free money? No. What if there are creditors against the parents' estates and that life insurance is being paid to an individual for their estate?
So how do you protect that? What do you do?
That's a great question. I didn't even ask you to say that. What you do, and it's such an easy solution, you put a trust in place and you have the life insurance pay to the trust at both parents passing. What that accomplishes is that tax-free money automatically passes into a trust. That tax-free money is automatically protected from debtors and creditors.
And
you
who's
have,
doing that in this room right now? I am. Let's just say,
Right.
I just figured that out for
Right.
us right now to do that.
but these are all ways that you can kind of touch points with your clients. You may not necessarily be able to solve all their problems, but to be able to bring up the conversation really makes people appreciate you even more.
Or actually, we would connect them to you that, hey, have you thought about these things? Because we're not the experts in this at all. So here is someone that, you know, as another extension, like the way that we're a resource to them
Right.
for a kind of, you know, we're the, like you said, we're the go-to
Right.
for everything.
Right.
Here is, as clients, here, are these things that you've thought about also now you're purchasing a home, your biggest investment? Here is another contact, here's a value added as an agent that you should probably contact someone. Here is my referral, contact someone to take care of this.
And I go to
Yeah.
many Keller Williams offices. Keller Williams is like my favorite place to go. And I always consider myself a friend and family. So if you or people you know need anything that we're talking about today, connect me and I will, work with you on cost. I put an email out to all my Keller Williams contacts last month. Happy spring. As a friend and family of Keller Williams, I'd like to offer everybody $100 off your will to you and your clients. Retirement accounts, annuities, and trusts also do not pass through a will. And at the bottom, without a named beneficiary, an account will go to probate, where the judge will decide who gets the money, and it also can be attacked by creditors and debtors. So what is an estate plan? So what are we talking about here? Well, there's 4 documents that typically go in place. One is a will, which identifies the guardian of minors, specific children, who's going to carry out wishes, who's going to pay debts, who's going to pay expenses, who's going to make sure that things are moving where they're supposed to move. A financial power of attorney and the document under that, the healthcare directive, are documents that you appoint somebody while you are alive to make these decisions for you. One is for financial and one is for health. And then the last one is the HIPAA release, so that your agents that you just appointed on document 2 and document 3 can act on your behalf. So trusts are good for certain things. They are not the end all be all for every single thing. I get the question all the time, I want to trust. People call me up and say, hi Lisa, I got your name from so-and-so, I want to trust. I said, well, tell me more, right? It's not just like if someone calls you and say you want to buy a house. Where, right? Where? What's your price range, right? Why do you want to buy a house? Why don't you want to rent? So you can have a conversation. So it's not like going to Publix. I'd like a pound of ground beef, please. Our businesses is not like that, right? We're a relationship business. We need to talk to people. And so trust, these are things that trusts can do. Manage property, protect interests of children, special needs trust or specially designed trust for children who are receiving government benefits, because if they receive an inheritance, it will mess up that government benefit and might disqualify it. So trust, if you think about the overall gist of what a trust is, it's for protection. It can provide privacy because it doesn't go through probate. And again, we talked about this in multiple states. If you own property in multiple states, if you have a client that is buying their Georgia home and they've got a Florida beach house and they've got a Colorado mountain house and they've got a Deer Valley house, they need to put those other properties in trust to avoid probate. And they might not know that, but you will now. And I know I deal with a lot of Keller Williams agents in general that also as a side business, manage properties, right? Rental income, rental properties. Another way that you can protect yourself is by setting up trusts, setting up LLCs. So there's things that you can do for yourself in addition to your clients. And clients usually say to me, well, do you have that? Right? People might say to you, do you have that? No, I don't have an emergency fund. No, I don't really have life insurance. Not important to me. Well, how can you talk to a client about what's important to them if you don't have these things? So it's important to get yourself in order and educate yourself as well.
How do you lower your estate taxes? Could you just talk a minute about that?
So an estate tax, right now the estate tax is $12 million, which means if you die with more than $12 million in your name, you will owe an estate tax. So estate tax right now is about 40%. Most people don't have an
40%
issue.
of everything over 12 million.
Yes. But the government might reduce that in the next few years down to 5 million.
That sucks.
So, and I have a client that he says, well, I don't really have, I only have a home and a business. I said, well, what's your business? Oh, I own gas stations. Oh, and I have rental properties. And I'm half owner in all these other companies. And I said, well, let's total that up. Want to take a guess what the total was?
More than 12 million?
20 million.
Wow.
So I said you might
Does he
have,
want
this-
us, does he wanna add us to his will?
right, right? But that is a person that might owe state tax. And so can you imagine if he owes a state tax, but all his property is all his assets? He's not liquid. So how do you pay an estate tax on $8 million with property? You have to sell it. What if the markets aren't good? So an easy solution for him is a life insurance policy. Wouldn't it be nice to have a life insurance policy in place at his death would pay that estate tax? And it really only matters when him and his wife pass away because spouses can pass property back and forth during life or death with no estate tax consequence. It's really at the second passing. So what we're talking about and something else I help clients with is life insurance. So there's policies called second to die or survivorship policies. So that when they both pass away, that policy will pay out so that their children will be able to pay the estate tax of the inheritance that they're getting, so they don't have to sell the property, get rid of the business. So can you see how that could be a really easy solution to a good but complicated problem? I mean, I'd like to have $20 million of, right?
Right.
So if, let's say they're both in the will, and then also their kids are there, and they have the right of survivorship with their kids, would they still have to pay taxes if both parents die?
That's what I was thinking, wondering about that.
So when people pass away, if they're married, they don't, if one person passes away and they leave a survivor, there's no estate tax due. When that second person passes away, the estate is passing down to someone, regardless
The
of who it is,
successor.
right? There might be an estate tax owed on the value of the estate that's coming down.
So if the parents, God forbid, passed away, whoever's there, then, and the children are the successor for that trust, you're saying there might be a state tax on it if it's more than the course, the 5 billion or the 20 million number?
There are ways to create it's called a dynasty trust, and I didn't want to get into the
Got it.
weeds. There are trusts that you can put in place. I don't typically work with them, but they're for multi-generational passing of that to avoid that issue.
And
They're
that
called
would be for
dynasty
people
trusts.
who have more than that
A lot of money,
5 million or.
and typically it's families that just have a lot of wealth everywhere,
Okay.
right? And it's going to be passed down and passed down and passed down. There are ways to structure it to kind of push it out as far as you can. So again, these are just some of the reasons why would you want to reconsider doing an estate, right? And these are also things that happen to coincide perfectly and align with what you do with your clients, right? Why are you helping somebody buy a house? Change your marital status, birth, adoption, death, change of residence, changes in the assets, off to the right, reevaluation of executors, tax laws change. But everything on the left really does, I think, from what I can see, align with what you are doing with clients, why they are buying or selling houses. I mean, there might be things on there that we didn't talk, that's not on there. But as far as an estate, when should you think about redoing your will or your trust? And then there are ways to protect assets, again, trusts, retirement plans, 401ks, IRAs, qualified plans are protected. Non-qualified investments, life insurance and annuities are also protections. So these are places that you can put money that can be protected. And then you take control of your legacy. Don't let somebody else be in control. And don't say, I don't know, I don't want to think about it. Because ignorance is not an excuse. And so I hope this was a help to you. If you have any questions now or after.
I do have a question.
Hey, Elise, this is George Crumley. I got a question. I got a question and a comment.
Hey, George.
Okay, first the comment on your information was very helpful. Question though, if you have a will, do you have to go through probate?
Probably yes. because you will need to have an executor pay debts and expenses. There are some instances when you don't have to go to probate for very low estates, for people that don't own anything. But I don't practice the law of probate. I know just enough to be dangerous, so I can connect you with someone if you want more information on that, but that's a great question, George.
Okay, okay. All right, so maybe I'll call you offline.
That'd be
And,
awesome, thank you, and thank you for telling me that was helpful.
yeah, very helpful, very helpful. Also on your information about the information on what you should provide as far as how you want to handle if you're in the hospital.
Mhm.
If you prepare that document, you need to make sure that you give it to your physician, because if you keep it yourself, most doctors and hospitals won't accept it. You have to give it to them ahead of time.
Right, and so what I do with clients that I help with that is I always make them an extra copy. It's called the Advanced Directive for Healthcare. You don't have to have an attorney to do that. You can, it's a statutory form. You can Google it, Georgia Advanced Directive for Healthcare. You can print it out. It doesn't need to be notarized, just needs to be signed by 2 people. But I always make clients an extra copy to keep in your car and your glove box. What if you're in a bad car accident? I did work with an ER doctor, and he said, you should have clients put this in their glove box. I said, that's a fantastic idea. And so I do. But no, you're absolutely right, George.
So my question is about trusts. I have one rental property and then my own home. Should I have a property in a trust? Should I have just me, I'm divorced, I have 3 children that are all adults now. So I'm always confused, like, is it trust for the property? Do I need a trust for them to inherit the trust? Like, can you give us a little more info on the trust work?
Well, people can inherit property through probate or through trust. It's just a matter of the process by which they're going to get it.
Is there a benefit for it to be a trust?
The benefit of going and having it in a trust is you avoid probate, which means you don't have to go to probate court, show the will, show the death certificate, and then pass the property, right? It goes through trust. It's an easier process. And I heard horror stories during COVID because the courts were closed and there was a clog up and people trying to go through probate to try to move the houses. And I'm sure it made the real estate agent's job a little more challenged. And some people want it just for privacy, right? They don't want everybody knowing their business.
So regardless, if I were to pass away, my kids are gonna have to, and my will's gonna have to be probated, but to have immediate ownership of the property, it's not like they don't have access, but ownership of the property, a trust. would be-
Right, well, it's not immediate, but it's streamlined and it's outside the probate process. And in putting properties also in trust doesn't trigger a clause typically that mortgage people put in place called due on sale, right? But if you put the property in an LLC, which gives it now extra layers of protection, sometimes properties with a mortgage that are put in an LLC trigger a clause called due on sale, which means the mortgage company will say, oh, Susie and Joe put it in trust, we want our money now, right? You don't want that to happen. So sometimes people will ask the mortgage company, if I put this in an LLC, is it going to trigger the clause?
So do you want your house in an LLC or do you want it under a trust?
Well, rental property,
Like your own personal?
right, your own personal property, I would say have it either joint right of survivorship outright or in a trust. You don't need your home, you don't have to have an LLC,
Right.
but I would say still think about having an umbrella policy on your house. What if you had a party, somebody got really drunk, fell off the deck and slipped and died? Right, and also with rental property, right? If you're you don't know, again, we went back to the very first slide, what can you control?
So what do you put, if you have investment properties that are rentals, and you want to leave their property to your kids, how do you protect them?
You can set up a trust and pass If it's an LLC, you said, or a
Yes,
trust?
on LLC.
Well, an LLC, the structure by which what it is membership interest. So you can pass membership interest through wills or trusts.
Okay,
In a trust, you can say, at my passing, I give this property, I want it sold, and money given to my kids, I just want to give the property to my kids, you can do what you want.
so you have your property on an LLC and also have a trust to tell how you want.
You can have both of those things, so, with an LLC, you want to have a bank account with the LLC.
Mhm.
But you might also want a trust account to show that your LLC profits are running into your trust for more evidence that your LLC is in a trust.
Now, you can have an LLC, and correct me if I'm wrong, you would need an operating agreement, and every operating agreement is different for every LLC. So depending on what you have in your operating agreement, also should state that if something were to happen to you in that operating agreement, it should state that it would go to your beneficiaries in your will. I've been read through I have read through it, but I would have to
Right,
reread
I
it.
don't, that's a whole other
Okay.
area, that's a whole other
Yeah.
area of law. But typically what you're talking about is, okay, if we have an LLC, let's say we have a conglomerate of lots of rental properties, we've got 3 partners, right? What if one of the partners dies? Is the surviving widow now going to be partners with these other 2 people? Or is there consideration in the operating agreement for saying, oh, we'll buy him or her out, and then there'll be 2 partners? And so an operating agreement can address if one of the
Yes.
partners, right, death or disability, what if they got in an accident, they need long-term care and they can't work anymore?
But what does it say about your children in there in the operating agreement? Like if you own an LLC with either on your own or with your husband. And as she was asking, like, is there verbiage in there that says it's going to be passed to your children? It's in it.
You can have it that way,
So
or you can have it, be offered or bought out right of first refusal to other people.
other people other than your children?
If you want it to be sold to somebody else and then the children get the money. You can structure things how you want. So all these things that we've talked about today, you can decide how you want the plan executed. For the most part, there are no right, no wrong. It's what do you want? What's important to you? If something happened to you or a family member, where do you want property to go? What's your financial situation? What's your housing situation? Do you have assets that are protected? If they're not protected, why? And is there a solution to have them protected?
I found it easiest to just put everything into a trust. From all these discussions I've had with you, it came right back to putting any properties, personal property into a trust. And I also talked to our, like Thomas and Brown as well. And it all came back to just put it all into a trust. And then, have trustees. A trust isn't any good if you don't, of course, have trustees. And I'm learning a lot about that right now because one of my properties is in a title lawsuit right now. Real fun. So the person who is a petitioner suing, saying that it shouldn't have been sold to me, didn't set up what they needed to set up anyway properly. So they had a trust. However, the confusing part is also the trustees, as far as who are the trustees as part of the trust. So that's what my lawyer, the title lawyer, was arguing in court yesterday, because that's where I was. He said, do you want to come? And yeah, I can handle it out. I'll just take care of it for you. I was like, hey, I want to come.
I learned something.
Right.
Yeah,
Kind of interesting.
yeah, it was.
It's another story to share with people, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you all.
Hi, from Zoomland. My name is Grace. Can I ask a quick question? If you have things in different countries, how can you put it all together?
I'm sorry, say again, if you
Sorry,
live
I'm
in
sorry.
another country,
If you have properties in different countries, how can you put it all together?
you'll need wills or trust in the other countries.
So each country has to have a separate will and trust. I can't just say
Each
can't be
country, so, a United States person and property can have a United States trust, but let's say you own property in, south of France and Tuscany, Italy, you'll need wills or trusts in those countries as well. Does that answer your question, Grace?
Yes, yes. Thank you.
Those of you on Zoom, if you want to somehow put your name and address in a chat box, or if you can collect it. And anybody wants a copy of this book, it's called How Money Works, Don't Be a Sucker. It goes through some of the things that we talked about today. And on page 75, it also goes through the 7 money milestones. And so,
Also, we have a question from I think the chat on Zoom. Someone wants to know what's the typical price to get a will, to set up a will.
typically, for a straightforward will and documents per person is usually about $600, give or take. But because, I offer my Keller Williams friends and family $100 off, typically it's probably gonna be about 500. Depending on what we do, will depend on if it's less or if it's more. I never charge to talk to somebody, hear what they have, make a recommendation, and then you can say yes or no. No is okay. If you say no, you don't owe me anything, and hopefully I educated you and you can move on with your life. And so at the end of the conversation, I'll say, you know what? We could probably do that super easy, streamline it, it would be X amount of dollars. And you could say, let me think about it. No problem. Think about it. You thought about it, right?
Right.
And then you said, okay, I'm ready. And I
Yeah.
said, okay, let's go.
Yeah, and Elise really has been very patient. I was like, she really goes out of her way because this is a lot to understand.
There's a lot.
So,
There's a lot.
yeah, so when I talk to my accountant or anybody else, professionals, I was waiting for Elise's bill. I was like, what is Elise's bill gonna be? I called her I think, so many times and long conversations to understand things. And all of that, she just did it out of her passion to help me understand how it works. And then she's just charging for what she charges to set up the will or trust. Not for all those other past hours and conversations I've had with her because I'm slow, I'm like a turtle, so it took me a while. It took me a year, a year, right? A year we were talking about, and then there was a question I had that it was real estate related. So she connected on a 3-way call, even an attorney in her circle, to get on the line to figure out if this investment we were gonna make is a safe one. So she just really goes beyond the level of service that I expected.
Thank you.
And so so that's why I stuck to you. I was like, how you want your clients to stick to you and be loyal even after they say, we're gonna put it off for 6 months, a year, and then they circle back with you because they know how they treated you.
Yeah.
That's Elise. That's what
Well, thank you.
that's what you.
So I'm in service to clients just like you. If you take someone out 3 weekends in a row in the pouring rain to look at houses and they still can't find a house, do you charge them?
It's part of doing business.
It's part of doing business, part of helping and educating, because you want them to find the situation that's right for them. And I want to educate my clients. I want you to know why things are there, understand, all the 7 money milestones, not just number 7 that we talked about today, not just number 2, having life insurance, but all of it. And so part of that fee is kind of built into the front half. I don't want you to worry about, oh, how many questions did Grace have? Oh my God, she's calling me again? I want you to call me. I want you to ask me questions, because if you ask me questions, it means that you're learning.
Yeah.
If you say, yeah, whatever, is it not important to you, or do you already know it? And if you already know it, that's fine.
Yeah, just like how we get our commission and the clients look at it like, oh, well, this is a commission for you. We're working for them, right? And forget the fact that we're working for them. When they come to us and we guide them the proper way and get them to the closing table, that same year, or if we're still in COVID times, same year or the next year, we actually did them we compounded for the rest of their life, as long as they hold that asset. We were worth every penny for the investment that they made. And that's like how I look at this, I'm like, I was like, okay, so whatever fee it is, it's gonna be, like, I didn't even ask her for her fee all this time. But, and then she gave me the fee, I was like, oh, that's reasonable, you know, compared to what I thought it really would be. So, and this fee in the long term is protecting our assets. We could go to work all day, every day, serving our clients. And then if we don't do the right things for our children are like protected, then what's the point, right? If it could be just gone like that, once you're gone, right? Or any other situation, any other shift.
And you want people in your circle that are on your side. Like years ago when we bought the house, and we love our house, but we bought it, there was like a frenzy for it. And my realtor called us the weekend before and said, there's a house coming on the market that sounds exactly like what you're describing to me. Here's what it is, here's the address. So she gave me this information, and I found out that I knew this homeowner, right? So I talked to her before and I said, we're renting, and if the numbers work out, we're totally flexible. I didn't know that they were building and everything was behind. And so that was another relationship stepping stone that made it so that we weren't the highest offer, but the relationship and the value that was created in that small space because of the agent that I work with. Now, do you think that agent created value and all she did was say, hey, this house is coming up and it sounds exactly like what you want? I mean, it's so wonderful, and it must be a great feeling. I've never been a real estate agent, but it must be a great feeling to see that come to fruition, right? Someone says, I want this house, I'm really looking for it, I don't know if I can afford it, I don't know if I can ever find what I really want, and then you find it. It's like the diamond in the rough, and you see them, and you go to the closing, and it must be just like the best, like seeing your kids. Like for me as a mom, I have 4 kids, and my oldest just got married last week. But seeing your child so happy in that pure state of happiness is just like everything. And so I can probably imagine that that's probably what it's like. Maybe not that much, but to some extent, to see and help somebody really find that. Or get the price that they really want, if they don't think they can.
So are there any ahas in the room? Just to kind of, first of all, thank you so much for taking your
Thank
time
you.
out. She had to switch her schedule around to be here today right now.
Thank you so
So-
much.
Yes, well, we can thank he was gonna be my 12 o'clock, he's now my 1:30.
I think that the marriage and divorce prevents so well, I think is information I didn't know, and I just closed with clients who got divorced, and my next call is to them to say, hey, don't admit this.
Well, what else did you guys not know that now you know that was informational or enlightening?
Well, for me, it was everything. I just got into real estate last month, and I'm 20 years old, so I don't know much about it, so it was really helpful.
So you can see how this is a huge relationship
Yes.
building.
Yes.
Well, thank
And
you.
this Lilia Kepelovich, I would like to say a big thank you. It is very important information that you shared. And I agree that we as real estate agents should be educating our clients. So my question would be, if I would put together a group of people or like a community meeting, would you be agreeing to help us and to share the same information, and how can we do it?
Right, I would be absolutely honored to talk to groups of people. Doesn't matter the size, 1, 10, 20 over Zoom, it doesn't matter. For me, I didn't know any of this growing up. And so my family growing up, we never talked about money. And then my father died, right? We just watched television at the dinner table. It was taboo to talk about money. And so now I want to talk about it to everybody. So I am honored to talk to people that I might not know by myself through you or through anyone. Groups, I go places, I can do it on Zoom. I mean, I do educations over Zoom to people that I would probably never meet in person, out of state. And so the answer to your question is yes, I would be honored if you want to call me, text me, email me. And then when I do talks, I usually bring a copy of this book for everybody, because I want you to be educated.
Yeah,
Love and
I would appreciate if you can send a copy of the book.
And if anybody knows anybody who wants, and this is not sales, this is just a separate. Yes, I'm an attorney, I've been an attorney for 30 years, but yes, I do financial education. And yes, I get paid for doing financial education by going through 7 money milestones, by filling in gaps, gaps along the way. So if you or anyone you know might want to do that as kind of a side gig to pair with what you do, let me know.
Yes, I work a lot with international community, international clients from all over the world. And information that you shared is unique for everybody, but for people who did not grow up in United States, for people who doesn't know much about this side of the life, it will be crucial.
Absolutely.
Yeah, well, thank you all for your time and your questions and your interest.
Thank you.
Thank you.
First coaching class, guys, how did it go?
You did awesome. And I wore my Keller Williams red for everybody out there. This was not an accident.
So funny. I'd love a copy of this.
Okay, well, people that were here, can you fill this out? Just give me some feedback.
Sure. Okay.
No, blended.
A blend.
Very blended.
Can you give me some feedback? Honest is fine. Do you want to fill out a feedback form?
Yes, sure can. Thank you.
And I have 3 books with me. I might have more in my car if people want more. I also have my cards with me.
I will also thank
Oh
you.
my gosh.
I will go with you.
You'll go with me. So much. Did I give you my cards?
Yes, I've got one, thank you.
Thank you so much.
Sure.
Thank you.
Great, there were like a lot of people.
I thought, yeah, you didn't see all the people on the side, right?
Yeah, exactly. You don't see them on the side.
Right,
You
yeah.
see it over there.
So I got,
Oh, there were like 16
my-
comments in
my,
the chat.
and if there are people that say, yes, I want a book, but I don't know about it, you just want to like.
Yeah. You know what? Let me tell Kimberly not to
And
close
Kimberly
it
has,
so you can get.
I downloaded my presentation to her, so she has it.
Okay. All right.
So if somebody wants a copy of my slides or anything, like, no worries. Thank you.
Scroll up again.
Oh, okay.
And then just when you're done, close it all out.
Gotcha. There are like some comments here. Please provide the last classes info that you just mentioned.
What?
So, people were asking some
The
questions.
clients
Yeah.
info.
Let me take a picture of this.
Thank you. Did you get a book or you want some? Wait, I gotta write you a little message. Can I borrow your pen? Where did you graduate from?
Tennessee.
Oh, my stepson just went there to visit.
Oh, it's
Well,
really
yeah.
nice, yeah.
It's a great school, great little town.
Sorry.
Thank you so much.
So,
Yes.
Do you want a book?
Yes, did it do
Or
it?
your
She
pen?
left town on Thursday to go
Okay.
home
Yeah.
for
What's your
the
last name?
celebration.
Gonzalez?
celebration. So that Friday was mom's weekend.
Okay.
And so she had to come back to her mom.
which was good, so then we saw the person. I, of course, had to leave, but I was like, "Hey, celebration."
You were the liaison between.
Yeah, I was
both.
like, tell me what, you know, we all have a big celebration, what we all do,
Yeah,
and, you know, it's like, happy end of promenade.
yeah,
So.
it's over, they're done, like, like, you know what I mean, it's,
Yeah,
they won't see each
exactly.
other anymore, right, like, and not that they
No,
won't see each other, but
Right, they're not gonna be roommates after
Roommates
another
after.
week, and
yeah, okay,
regardless, I kind of perceived and showed her like,
Yeah.
there's a good way to handle it.
right, yeah, but they were friends before all of this happened, is that?
So, they sort of
Thank
know
you.
each other last year, I guess just from the
Feel like I'm
stories
autographing
and the
the house.
freshmen. They room together.
Okay.
And
How do you say me?
No.
Me?
Make,
you know,
no,
I
Muffin,
had
I
to
mean,
go-
it's like, yeah.
I went to
Yeah.
this.
Muffin.
Yes.
Ah.
Right?
Yeah.
We gotta get you
Oh,
to-
I'll get a look next time.
No, I can, if you wanna follow down to my car.
Oh, sure, okay.
And I know you said you're going home for lunch.
Yes.
Right?
There's a lot of
I would love to
places
grab one
along
also.
the way.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, then there's something.
Me too.
And I
End
to
of
the car
the year.
afterwards. Well, I don't have to. I can come to the
Like,
door.
yeah.
When you
Right.
share a room with somebody.
Oh my god, everybody gets one.
You know, that's not, you know, that's when you really know that well.
Yeah, so they understood that they got it.
Yeah, and,
Yeah.
And then something that I wanted
and
to
as
do,
a result,
especially
even
because
Jack.
the relationship of my
Yeah, yeah.
second house, my house,
said something bad about someone.
Yeah.
and his ex-family,
Like,
and they
Wait,
really
who's Jack?
were
my oldest.
Okay, yeah.
so I
I was
just
How long
like,
have you
"Hey,
been
one more
married?"
time, he could not
20
shut up about
something,
Griffin and how Griffin was
21.
on his master. And I was like, it's
So we have
just
kids
kind of
from different
code
marriages.
Right, and then on top of
We
that.
have
Oh,
like-
you kids together.
Yes, we have two.
Yeah.
See, my second marriage, we only had kids
Irritating.
Oh, okay.
from our own.
They're all
Oh,
stressed
okay,
about
okay.
it.
So when I said this
Yeah.
side about him,
Right.
that probably you were like,
I know, and
Right, that's what it
my
is.
main concern is
Right.
always
And
to
then
have
after
my
having that
son, the one that
You
lived
know,
with
last year
us,
when,
since
you know.
he
y'all
was 1
said,
year old when we
Yeah.
"We'll be better friends
got
when
together.
we leave, when you don't live together."
So he's
That
right,
is
pretty
when I
much
was
the
like,
one here.
"No, we won't."
Which is how we
Because
The way we
And
it's
now
a great
we're like-
relationship, and we have
the
pre,
only one she's been texting.
prenup,
Oh,
how do you call
God.
it?
Yeah, I hope
Prenup.
they do.
Prenup,
Yeah,
Yeah,
I hope they
yeah.
actually maybe reconnect.
But my
because
main
like you said,
concern
it was
is
just
that
something
I want my
happened
three
because
kids
of
to be the same,
closeness
in
and
the same
proximity and
position.
all
Yeah,
that.
I don't want my
Some people use
son,
their
the one that is not his
Right.
son,
Right.
to be
Yeah.
a.
I like you.
Right,
better
and so
when
just
we're
think
not
in your
in the
mind,
same room together.
if something happened to
Right.
you,
Some people finish
where is property gonna go?
Yeah.
Property
Anyway,
is
My
gonna
roommate
be
tried,
under
my
your name.
roommate tried to kill me.
Exactly,
Directly,
it's like
really
in joints, like
We
me
have
and
one
my,
house.
like me and my
The
now
mentor
husband
on the
have our
floor,
own
and
joint
she's
right,
like,
so
oh
ownership,
my,
That's
means
what
if
you
I
do.
die,
resolve
he
things.
gets it.
We
So
just,
what
you
do my
know,
children get?
we
So
do
I
what
have
we need
4
to
children,
do.
he has 2
So
children.
there was reading between the lines,
So
like
in
subliminal,
that case,
like,
is
oh, I take
everything
care
right?
of it, you know, in
That's what
whichever
we
way
need
we
to do?
need to, and I
Yeah,
was
but it's
like,
also
like-
for the assets.
what do you
Like you
mean?
have a 401k,
Yeah,
you're
yeah,
a
like,
beneficiary,
so
you
you're
have life
never
insurance,
sure.
what's the beneficiary, like you can have life insurance
We
in
do
place,
say-
right,
Yeah,
and you
so
can name
like,
your
she was saying
children
they're
this
Yeah.
this
percent,
way, right?
We-
Right,
And I'm
and
like,
so you
I
can
understand.
line up that.
Yeah, like,
And I have
because
to
you're
change
gonna
it
kill
because my
them.
mom
Yeah,
passed,
yeah,
my mom
exactly.
was
Her
born
boyfriend
there,
came up
yeah,
all the
so I have, but I want
And we were
my
like,
little
three
kid,
people just like
do
that
that.
Right.
so I,
And so
that I
he was
have
over
to
all the
change,
time,
but
and I
the
got
house
irritated.
is
And how old
something
is
that
that?
And you won't believe
60.
this, back then
So
in
you
college, I
need
actually
to
wore
put a
a
trust in
scarf.
place so
Like,
that
I
life
used to be
insurance
more-
can
I wish I
again
more
is
religious,
protected.
but like, it
Just
Exactly.
more younger than 18.
I wore a scarf, so I was a little bit more concerned.
Yeah, I have a
with it.
20,
So
24,
like, mind you,
24,
I
20
actually
and 16.
had, you know,
And
I had
two
a-
of them
I
are
had
us,
a relationship
the
too.
two
Right.
year
But
ones.
like he
But
wouldn't
the
say
older
more
one is
stuff,
the
but guess
bigger
what,
one.
her boyfriend was.
Because I
There's
want
always
him
one
to
in
be.
the group, yeah.
I know.
And
I know.
So
it was
let me
like,
know when you have
you
time,
know,
I will send you an email.
that's why we were
Just send
sitting
me
at the
an email.
mentor.
I'll send it to you.
Thank you so much.
And then I
Probably
switched
in June,
roommates,
'cause I'm
and I was
leaving
so
to
much
go out of town
happier.
next
The
week.
other
Uh-huh.
roommate and
And
I
then when I
had
get back,
space
then I
and
have
it
to
was
fly to
cool,
Florida,
just
my
like
brother-in-law's
personality
60th
too.
birthday.
Okay.
So,
So-
look at your calendar for June.
Okay,
We'll
all
make
right,
it.
okay, no problem,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
And you just make it work and something says.
Yeah, I can walk it out, come back.
Okay.
Right,
The next step.
right, right, yeah, yeah.
Anyway.
Lisa, I'll come
It's
with
it's
you.
what makes it interesting, yes.
I'll come with you, but not a
I-
book, but you don't have to sign because I'm gonna give it to my sister.
Okay.
You might need to shut the Zoom off, please.
Run out, get a book on something like that.